Olá, bom dia. Non falo bem português, so excuse my French, I'll speak in English. Yes, that was a pretty good summary of what la Quadrature du Net is, to show how impossible it is to put the internet in a box, in a square. This is a message to policymakers around the world, but most importantly, this is a message to citizens for participation. We created La Quadrature du Net in 2008 as a toolbox for citizens. We build tools to help citizens understand when their fundamental freedoms are being attacked online, and tools to help them participate. Among the many different topics we've worked on along these years, ACTA, that has been mentioned before, has occupied 4 of our years. During 4 years, we've been, leaking draft documents, we've been building peer-reviewed analysis of these documents, we've been raising awareness, building alliance of individuals and NGOs to share our views. We've been building alliance within the European Parliament. We've been building political meaning, political sense out of ACTA and the way our freedoms were attacked by this international trade agreement. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm not a member of any political party at all. I'm not looking for votes here. I practice politics as an amateur. I practice politics as a citizen. And I practice politics because and thanks to a free internet. Because, I heard previous panel and saw this very funny video that was shown as an introduction to our own debate. And all I heard there sounded surprisingly familiar to me. I heard those words going again and again about how we need a professional culture, how those industries were endangered, how every year 50% of the revenues were lost, we're all dying, and so on and so on. And this sounded to me all too familiar, because it sounded exactly like what those US giant corporations are telling over and over for the last 15 years. It sounded exactly the same as what those global lobby firms and those global lobby groups are repeating again and again to members of the parliament in the EU, to members of the commission, in various local parliaments. And this is not really strong as a wording. I mean, it has some meaning, it has some impact on people who do not really look behind the varnish. But this is actually quite a weak ideology. This is a weak ideology, and its bases are fundamentally flawed and extremely dangerous for society as a whole. And this is what I want to tell you as of today. This ideology that we need more copyright at all costs. If we don't have more copyright, we will all be dying, and we need this so-called cooperation, self-regulation of the whole internet to serve that purpose, not only hurts fundamental freedoms, it also hurts a free internet. And it also hurts the culture that we all build and share today. So this is what I'm going to tell you today. First of all, we need to think about the meaning of a free internet for a society. Who in the room know how the internet works? Well, if you're raising your hand right now, you're either kind of wrong or lying. I'm a hacker. It has been wrongly translated, by the way, in the bio in Portuguese. A hacker is not a pirata. A hacker is a hacker. And also, a hacker, to the etymological sense of the term, is not a criminal. A hacker is not somebody who breaks. A hacker is somebody who builds. By definition, a hacker is somebody who is curious about technology, who tries to understand how it works. Because a hacker wants to control technology and never be controlled by technology. This is what being a hacker is. I can remember when I was 5 years old, I took a screwdriver, my first screwdriver, and my first cassette tape, and I tried to confront the one with another because I wanted to see how it worked inside. Why there was music going out of it? Well, I didn't get an answer, but it gives you an idea of what a hacker is. So I'm a hacker. I've been working with the internet since 1994 or something, and still I cannot pretend to begin to understand how the internet works. I can try to know more, and I'm definitely learning more every day. I can try to learn as much as I can about IP, about, not this one, I mean TCP IP, about routing, about how GNU Linux system works, how you make software and so on. But I will never be able, with my only single mind, to comprehend the whole of internet, because this is one of the most complex systems humanity has ever built. So we should try to be humble about it. Give up on the simplistic approach. So you have this ISP bubble here, and then you have the users here. You just have to cut a hole in the middle. No. We have to give up on the simplistic approach and take it the other way around. It's not about understanding how to change the internet, but understanding how to protect the internet the way it is today. And for this, we have to start by assessing the benefits that a free internet brings, not only for society, but for economies and for culture. So, a free, open internet is based on what some call net neutrality. It is a very essential characteristic of the network. And no, the internet wasn't invented by the militaries alone. Internet was invented by the military on one hand, and by the academics and the hackers on the other hand, at the very same time. And this is this alliance of hackers from MIT, from Carnegie Mellon, from Berkeley, from universities all around Europe, that based their work on sharing the knowledge that made it possible to happen. This is the academics and not the militaries who invented TCP IP, that from the start was free to share by everyone. And this is what gives us a free internet. This is what gives us net neutrality. This net neutrality means that all of us, as long as we are connected to a free and open internet, can not only access to all content, service, and application, but we can also publish content, service, and application. We're not only readers, we're also writers. We all have the very same capacity of participation on the internet. And this is what makes the internet great. This is why we love it. So, I told you, I'm a hacker, I'm an amateur politician, and I'm using the internet for participating in the democratic life. I'm using the internet to make my voice heard. And sometimes it works. You may have heard about the ACTA debacle in the European Parliament. We finally, after 4 years of hard work, won by 478 votes against 39, including 21 Sarkozysts, French, led by Marielle Gallo. So 6 months before, all political analysts said it was impossible, that we would never win against Hollywood, against Big Pharma, against the governments of 39 Western countries. It was impossible, but we did it anyway. We did it because of a free, open network of communication that we use to stimulate democratic participation. And this is this very capability that helped in the US to repeal the SOPA and PIPA acts a very few months before we had this ACTA battle. This is what helped the Arab Spring. This is what helps most of the major democratic changes today in authoritarian regime. And this is what will keep us defeating any attempt by the copyright industry to break our free internet. So, this is where I'm getting. We've heard in this very funny video in the beginning, we've heard it in the words of Francisco Pinto Balsemão before, that what we need, we have this big problem of people sharing culture online. So we need a solution, right? Because we have this big problem. So what we need is co-regulation, co-responsibility of the actors. Yeah, it's as simple as this. It has been said before. It might not be that complicated, right? There should be a simple technical solution. We want people to stop sharing. Let the geeks find out. Let's ask Google, Telefonica, TMN. Let's ask them. They're the geeks. They understand the computers. They will find a solution for us. Well, this is the worst thing to do. This was the core of ACTA. This was the core of SOPA and PIPA. This is today the core of the recommendations of Pierre Lescure to French government in France. This is the core of what copyright industry is asking to policymakers all around the world for the last 5 to 10 years. It sounds very harmless. Cooperation. Cooperative efforts within the business community to deter further infringement. This was a quote from ACTA, by the way. So we talk about cooperation. What could possibly go wrong? Well, we're asking private companies, some of which are getting in increasingly dominant positions, to not only end criminal activities, but also prevent criminal activities. We're asking private companies to surveil communications, to surveil the network and their users. We're asking them to take sanctions, to automatically remove content, to block access to content. Well, in my democracy, with the rule of law, it's only police that surveils, and only the judicial judge that sanctions. Asking those private companies to take measures that will inevitably harm our capacity of participation, our capacity of sharing information and knowledge of online, asking them to hurt our freedom of speech, to hurt our privacy, to hurt our right to a fair trial, is not what will help these industries regain the profit they made in the 90s. It is not what will help copyright regain a legitimacy that it is about to lose forever. It is just about to, 1, break the internet, 2, attack our freedoms online, and 3, give more power to Google. Is this what you want? You remember the early 2000s. You remember, you were there. Well, industry was saying, oh, all those copies on the internet, those Napsters and the such, oh, we are so dying, we're losing 75% of our revenue each year. Help us, help us. And they came up with this bright idea, and I could speak about it for hours. DRM, Digital Restriction Management. You know, handcuffs. You put handcuffs with the works, and then you sell the keys. That's logic. It will work. Obviously, it will work. Every consumer will rush for it. Well, it's so easy to break that we need a law. Yeah, indeed, we need a law to make it illegal, to break the technical protection of the legal protection. Yeah, we need legal protection of the technical protection of the legal protection, and this will probably work. Look at it 10 years after. Who benefited from it? Apple. Apple is now the biggest capitalization in this world, whose business model is based on locking down the users, on forbidding the users from doing what they want to do with their computers, forbidding them from install the application they want, forbidding them from install the software they want from the source they want, forbidding them from using hardware or software from any other manufacturer than Apple. Congratulations, industry. You made it right. Is that the world we want to build? Is this the same kind of power we want to give to Google? Remember that they are deploying their drones soon in the streets? It's called Google Glasses. Is this really what you want? Well, I tell you, first of all, ask yourself, what is a free internet? Why does it bring all this to our economies, to our culture, and to our societies? And then, please come and help us work actively at protecting it instead of attacking it through illegitimate means such as ACTA, TPP, TTIP/TAFTA, or whatever invention there could be to circumvent democratic process next. So, this is my first point. If we have a co-responsibility here, it is as a society to protect a free internet that enables universal participation and the sharing of knowledge. Second, and I have no idea how much time I have left. Okay. Second of all, if we want to think a society that we will be proud to hand out to our children, we must stop thinking about the professional culture and listen to the people in suit and gray hair who have probably no idea of how music is being created today. And we have to think on how culture is being done. I'm speaking of today's culture, not those artists you managed to get in your funny video who are probably making music or movies for the last 20 or 30 years. I'm not speaking of the works that were produced before. I'm telling you of the works that are being produced today and about the works that will be produced tomorrow. Because these are the ones I'm caring about. I know that one example is not the rule. But if it wasn't for my activity of sharing MP3 files, since maybe years before you even heard of MP3s, I encoded my first MP3 CD in 12 hours. One CD took 12 hours of my computing time back in '95 to get MP3 files. I was expecting Napster because it was so obvious in our communities that this would be the way to share culture. So, since I share culture, since I know those thousands of artists I would never be exposed to, I think I spent maybe 50 times more for culture than the average European citizen. I would have never begun thinking of building a vinyl record collection if it wasn't for the tremendous variety and diversity of musical genre and themes and ranges and colors and people I found all through the sharing of the internet. So I'm telling you, this is not because it is my example, this is not because it is my life, that it is the world we live today, but ask anyone who is between 15 and 25 today. Ask them about the artists they love and care about. And ask them if they saw them first on TV or on the internet to get an idea. Then ask yourself, what is culture? How does it even exist? Culture only exists because it is shared. If you produce your song alone and nobody listens to it, then it is pointless. On the contrary, if you produce your song and 1 billion people listen to it, even if half of 1% gives you money, then you will be able to produce the next song. And this is what is being changed today. Culture is about sharing and is about participation. And participation doesn't mean being a consumer, going in a store, putting a banknote on the table, going back home, and that's it. There are hundreds of ways of participating in culture. Telling your friends, this artist is wonderful, there will be a concert tomorrow, you should join, is participating in culture. Uploading a file of somebody you love and telling people, go and download this stuff, is participating in culture. Remixing a song you like is participating in culture. There are hundreds, thousands of ways of participating in culture that are being experimented as of today. For one reason, because we still have between our hands that free internet I mentioned earlier. So once again, it is about protecting this capacity of sharing and this capacity of participation in culture. And then we can ask ourselves about business models. Then we can ask ourselves about revenues. This should be a consequence of a flourishing culture and not the main objective. And once again, if you look at it today, no, we are not dying. No, culture is not dying. It is more vibrant than ever. There are hundreds of crowdfunding platforms on the internet that ask for people to voluntarily come and participate in funding culture. Well, this is one way of participating in culture, right? Funding it. The platform Kickstarter, just one, and I hate to quote commercial brands. Kickstarter alone rose $900 million for the year 2012. That's $300 million to fund more than 9,000 movies, only for 2012. And that's only one platform from one funding model being experimented today. So my point is, we must preserve this ability to experiment with new funding models that is deeply linked to our ability to share culture and to participate in culture, those of which are intertwined with the technical nature of a free, open, neutral, and decentralized internet, where we won't hand Google and such private actors powers of police and justice. As a very brief conclusion, it is urgent that we reform copyright. I invite you to look at our proposals for reforming copyright and associated cultural policies. It's not only about copyright, it is also about funding culture, because we believe that funding is important. We believe that we can also invent new funding models, new mutualized funding models for culture, like we done before with collecting society, with blank media levies, with all those systems that need to be revised with more transparency and more equality. But what we say is that, first of all, we need to end this war against sharing. So first, we legalize the sharing between individuals and not for profit. And then we can think of enforcing for-profit sharing. Then we can think of new mutualized funding scheme for creation. But at all costs, we must keep as primary objectives to protect fundamental freedoms of individuals and safeguard a free, open, and neutral internet. I thank you very much.